I'm going to be interviewing Joseph here. He's going to tell us one of many of his Bigfoot encounters. So I'm going to quit talking and let Joseph tell the story.
Well, it was at nighttime. And we was catfishing, of course, and it was a full moon, and my nephew was along for the ride with me, and we was against the high bank. We had actually thrown the anchor out in the middle of the river and tried it first, and wasn't doing too hot there, so we just unleashed and floated around the bend to the high bank, and just let it drift us up against the pile there. And of course, we was in the darkness of the high bank as well. The cast of the moon was, into that high bank. But standing from the other side of the river, we had noticed that you couldn't really see in that cast, where we were at. Well, which we didn't know all this at this moment, but we were sitting there fishing, catching a few fish, and we'd been there for a while. And all of a sudden, I spotted something moving around on the other side of the river, downstream on the sandbar. It was a real long sandbar. It went way up past us, willow trees and stuff on it, but the river was down, and it was a nice sandbar in front of them willows, which would normally be flooded. But anyways, this critter comes walking down through there, and it's getting bigger and bigger by the minute, and we'd been not just talking out loud. We usually fish pretty quiet, when we're starting to do good. But anyways, had been quiet for a while there. We was catching fish, and all of a sudden I seen that, and it gets up there closer to me, or closer to us, and right straight across from us. And all of a sudden it stops. It spotted us, and it gets down, and like somebody stretching out, trying to get a better look, from one angle to the next. And I said, "Do you see?" He said, "I'm watching it." And we both figured out we're watching old Harry, what we call.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden he stands back up like a man, and he backs up into this willow tree that was pretty good size, and kind of disappears into that willow tree. But I thought he was still standing there for a long time, and I was like, "Well, he's just gonna stand there and watch us, ain't he?" He was like, what are you talking about?" And I was like, "He's still standing there at that tree, ain't he? In that willow tree." And he goes, "No, he's walking up the sandbar way up there. You don't see him?" I was like, "Oh, I do now." But I thought he was still out there in that willow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But that was weird.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was definitely something way bigger than us.
Yeah. About how big would you say?
I'm going to say anywhere from 8 to 9 foot, possibly 10 or bigger. But it looked about like 9 or 10 maybe.
Yeah.
I know it was way bigger than us, a human.
Yeah.
And bigger bodied.
Yeah.
As well.
Did you ever hear any noises?
Oh, I've heard noises there. Yeah.
I mean, did you hear that one make any noise?
No, that one was very silent and just along for the walk on the sandbar.
Mm-hmm.
The way it looked to us.
Yeah.
And but you could tell it definitely spotted us.
Yeah. And did you say it kind of squatted down and watched us?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was changing angles, like trying to really look into that darkness of that high bank. The cast of the moon had shaded us along that high bank where it couldn't actually see us.
Yeah.
And but it did see us. It had obviously had real good eyesight because it for surely seen us.
Yeah.
But that's just one of them.
One of them.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna be getting with you and getting some more from you.
Alrighty.
I appreciate you telling me and everybody else that's going to hear this the story. And so thank you very much, Joseph.
You're welcome.
I had previously interviewed Jared, and he was who was with Joseph when they were fishing and saw the Sasquatch on the sandbar. So I will be sharing with you his account of the story.
Me and my uncle was catfishing on the river It was night and real clear skies, full moon, and we was sitting there fishing and heard some bushes snap and looked across the river, and here come something real big walking out into the sandbar there and got down by the river and squatted down sitting there watching us. And it looked like a big old cow standing up over there, but whatever it was squatted down. And it sat there for about 25 minutes sitting there watching us and got up and disappeared into the bushes.
When it stood up, about how tall did it look?
About 9 foot.
Could you tell anything about the shoulders? Like
very wide.
Very wide.
Real long hair.
Real long hair. I guess you couldn't tell what color though.
No, not really. Real dark looking.
Real dark. Did you ever hear any noises?
Nothing other than winds breaking.
Did you ever smell anything?
No.
Nothing. Okay, Jared. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, and Colby, he also had something happen to him out here on our property when he and Joseph came out here to squirrel hunt. So I'm going to let Colby tell that.
Alrighty. We come out here, we were just trying to kill a mess of squirrels. That way we can have a little bit of dinner and stuff. But we come out here, and I made a big loop up this ridge, and they've got a deer stand and pond up here behind their house. And I got up there on top and killed a few squirrels. But anyways, got up there on top. I was kind of waiting on Joseph. We were going to kind of meet up on top of that ridge and then work our way down. And I heard something over my left, and I looked over my shoulder back towards that deer stand, and I seen something. I thought it was Joseph sitting there staring at me, messing with me, and got to looking, bobbing my head back and forth, and couldn't really make it out, but I could tell there was a figure standing there, and it had brownish, it was more of a lighter brown coloration to it, and I don't know what it was, and it was almost halfway up that deer stand, so it was probably about 8, almost 9 foot tall up to the top of the head. And I started making my way down the ridge a little bit, and all of a sudden I heard it move, and I looked back, and it was standing in a different position right there beside the box stand up on top of that ridge. And stood there trying to figure out what it was and looking, and never could figure it out exactly what it was, make it out 100%. And started moving again, and heard something back towards that same direction move, and I looked back, and it was gone. It wasn't standing there no more, and I got that eerie feeling something was watching me, and I've had that a few times in the woods. And I looked back up there, and still wasn't there. And I'm going to ease back down towards the house place, and started walking down that ridge towards the pond. I kept hearing something walk. Every time I'd stop, it'd stop too, and I'd stop and scan the woods and try to figure out where it's at, and I never could figure out exactly where it was, but it was following me through there. So I started speed walking a little bit down the hill, and I was like, my squirrel hunting's done. So, and then I heard it again following me, and I stopped and looked around, and next thing I know, there in front of me down towards that pond, a bunch of deer busted out, and they blew away from that walking that was coming towards me, and they made a big loop back around and hightailed it over the ridge. And something's definitely here and spooked them deer. It wasn't me. I was standing there for a good 45 seconds to a minute, and I started back down towards the pond. I got even with the pond. I heard it walking again, coming up, and it stopped at the pond. I never could hear it, never could see it anymore after that. And by this point, I was closer to the house, and from what I've been told, that it really didn't come further than that to the house anyways. And so it adds up that it just stopped right there, and I took off walking, never heard it again following me. But after seeing that and hearing that, I was like, something was there, and it wasn't Joseph.
Yeah.
Come back down here and was talking with him, and it was, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes later, Joseph showed back up down here, and I knew it wasn't him.
Mm-hmm. Now, didn't you say you had something?
Yeah, as well at the deer stand. That's about where it started. It's got a weird holler. Like it's not a regular sounding critter that you hear. But I could just hear it every so often, coming up that ravine, and and towards that deer stand you're talking about. It seems like every time I come down that ridge of an evening, I hear that noise, and I can also hear it following me. And it'll follow me about to where that road starts to go to the pond.
And it always
and it quits there.
And it was right there about what, 10 minutes before dark.
No, I was actually after dark. Remember that
And
day?
right at dark, yeah.
Yeah, because I stopped a whole bunch of times trying to actually wait on it to mess up and where I could see it.
Yeah.
Because I mean, like you said, I could still see a little bit, but by the time I got down here, it was dark.
Yeah, I remember you come up to the dark and
Yeah.
went in.
But it does that every time I make that loop right there. Every time I have made that loop, and I used to hunt here when I was a kid, you know, before you ever owned the place, and found these odd tracks over here of I thought were human footprints, but I got to looking at them and I'm like, they're freaking giants here. But I told my brother about it, Dave, and he said, well, there is such thing as a Sasquatch, they call it, and that is a old military road, but it ain't the first time that I've seen tracks in there. I've seen them in that road many a times in my life growing up. But anyway, there's definitely something here in this territory. My son, he had the life scared out of him, I think, just right down the road right here on the river. And as well as my other brother John, he had something of the same character
Yeah.
that he had seen previously, and he didn't ever tell any of us until we told him what happened to little Joe.
Yeah.
And anyways, it's definitely something.
Yeah.
But it's odd. You just don't see it every day or every time you get in the woods or hear it. But I noticed that it seems to like the rivers here.
Yeah.
Well, at least 2 of them or 3 of them
Yeah.
that I know of. Anywhere close to the river, you're liable to catch this human-looking figure thing that's bigger than us.
Yeah. Well,
It's hair-raising to me, but
Yeah.
sometimes. But I've encountered it a few times, and it's usually tried to get away from me as silent and quickly as possible.
yeah.
when I did recognize it,
Yeah.
that it was there, or accidentally seen it by,
Yeah.
being in a vehicle was the first time I ever seen it. But I thought it was actually a black bear. Me and my brother and nephew, and it actually got up on its hind legs and ran, plumb out of sight.
I remember you telling that story, but
Yeah.
I'm gonna
That
get
was
together.
years ago.
I'm gonna get together with you guys here pretty soon and try to get all the stories.
That'll work.
So
Sounds good. Yeah, we've got quite a few to be able to tell.
yeah, but I appreciate it, fellas.
You're welcome.